Okay, I think we can get started. Welcome, everyone. This is Getting Started with Public Sector Digital Services. And this webinar is a part of a larger series called Live on ServiceNow. Before we begin, I wanted to note the safe harbor notice and flash it here for you. So this presentation may contain forward-looking statements, but please do not base any purchase decisions based off of what is discussed here. Just want to quickly introduce who will be speaking today. So I'll be the first speaker. Hi, everyone. I'm Kai Amory, and I'm a Senior Outbound Product Manager for Public Sector Digital Services. I'll quickly pass it off to my colleague, Ryan, to introduce himself.
Thanks so much, Kai. Hi, everyone. My name is Ryan Griffin, and I am the Inbound Product Manager on the Public Sector Digital Services team. And Kai and I will be co-presenting today, sharing a bunch of functionality with you about Public Sector Digital Services. So thanks a lot for having us. And Kai, I'll turn it back to you.
Thanks, Ryan. All right. So as I mentioned previously, this webinar is part of a larger series called Live on ServiceNow. So, and all of these webinars are really designed to speed deployment and adoption. So I encourage you to check out the link shared in today's chat so that you can stay abreast of all of the webinars. I know there's another one coming up later today, so definitely check that out. A bit of housekeeping before we start. So we save time at the end for Q&A. If you have questions along the way, definitely be sure to use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. This presentation will be recorded and will be shared on the ServiceNow community, so it'll be available for you to check out again and again as you see fit. And then finally, at the end, you'll be prompted to fill out a short survey. Please do. We appreciate your feedback. So the agenda for today, we're going to start off by talking through the product strategy. We'll follow up with an overview of the product's foundational capabilities. We'll follow that up with some live demos so that you can see the feature in action. I think you'll really like that part. And then we'll wrap up with some Q&A. So starting off with our product strategy, which is grounded in our conversations with existing customers like you. And we came to realize that constituents rely on their government for many essential services. So this could be social services. So think childcare or nutrition assistance. This could be regulatory services. So things like licenses and permits and grants, or universal services. So think recycling and trash or 311. And not only are constituents relying on governments for a wide array of services, but there's also a diverse set of stakeholders who are relying on government. So it's not just individuals who are requesting services, but it's also businesses and organizations that need to interact with the government in unique ways. So a visitor might need transportation or recreation information. A resident might need to report a pothole or access an essential service like housing assistance, or a business might need a grant or a license and permit. And so there's a lot of different people who are relying on the government, and they all are expecting a consumer grade experience when they do interact. The issue with delivering that consumer grade experience is that humans are still doing the heavy lifting to serve the customer. So while oftentimes that initial interaction between the constituent and the agent is digital, when it comes for the agent to route the request internally to the appropriate place, that's where a lot of the manual processes start to emerge. And so that agent might be walking over to a colleague's desk to route the request, or they might be picking up a phone or sending an email. And what we're seeing here is that humans are filling in the gaps left by legacy systems and commercial off-the-shelf solutions. And so something that could have been resolved in a day ends up transforming into days and a week-long affair. This is where ServiceNow comes into play and can uniquely solve this issue. So instead of just digitizing that initial interaction between the constituent and agent, ServiceNow can digitize the process from end to end, intelligently orchestrating and automating work. So ServiceNow is automating multi-step processes, providing teams visibility into status, and providing and supporting government workers, providing built-in business logic and contextual guidance so they have everything that they need to do their jobs. And as we've been building out our product, I wanted to share kind of how we've thought about it. So we really thought it was important to lay a strong data model foundation so that we could serve constituents, agencies, and businesses on a single platform. From there, we're focusing on building packaged applications targeted towards specific use cases. So examples include social services, regulatory services, universal services, as well as agency to agency services. And this is all in service of accelerating time to value and helping governments like you build trust with your employees and with the constituents that you serve. As we build, we are leveraging all of the great capabilities within the CIWF horizontal foundation. So things like case, order, install base that come from the CIWF horizontal foundation are available within the public sector product. And what we do is that we layer on top government-specific content and capabilities to address government-specific challenges. And just providing an overview of what is included in our product, I'm going to dive deeper into some of these areas in the next few slides, but we provide a packaged government data model foundation. We're providing omni-channel constituent experiences. So a constituent can engage through a variety of channels, whether that's through our service catalog on the portal, through virtual agent, through engagement messenger, the list goes on. A configurable workspace for agents who are serving constituents, serving businesses. They can really determine which fields show up for them and make the workspace work for them. For government service managers, there's pre-built dashboards with public sector content that they can use to understand the current performance of their organization, as well as see what services the organization is offering and which are the services that constituents are actually requesting and calling in about. And then packaged workflows for common government processes. So now I'm going to dive into constituent services. So we knew that it was going to be important to provide a modern experience for constituents and the agents that serve them. And so we laid out a data model foundation where we're building off of the CSM core data model and creating government-specific fields and labels that governments could leverage, as well as extend on our defined architecture. We also have things like our government case types, which speed up the development of new workflows. And then in terms of the constituent experience, we're making it really easy for constituents to request services and track status from our portal. So not only is it easy for them to make that initial request, but they can go onto the portal and see at any time, even outside of business hours, what the status of their request is. And then from the agent end of things, they're able to have a workspace that is tailored to them, where they can have all of the contextual information that they need to resolve a constituent's request quickly and consistently. We knew that it was important not only to serve constituents, but also to serve both constituents and businesses on a single platform. And when I say businesses, I'm not just talking about for-profit businesses. I'm also talking about small businesses, nonprofits, and educational institutions, all of whom need to interact with the government and make requests. And so we built out a data model foundation of workflows that support common processes like having business owners self-register themselves, having them onboard their staff and giving them their staff access to business information, and then being able to track key things like the services the business has received over time or the permits and licenses that they have been awarded. And then the last thing I wanted to cover is performance analytics. And this is really designed with the government service manager in mind. And this helps to monitor and improve service delivery. So there's two dashboards that are available to managers. One is the Constituent Services dashboard, which really provides a snapshot of the organization's performance. And it helps managers understand how many open cases are there right now, how many closed cases did we have this week, how are we doing in terms of agent productivity. And then another dashboard, the Services Offered dashboard, which provides a really robust and comprehensive picture on all of the services that are being offered, as well as which ones are constituents requesting. And all of these foundational capabilities that I've mentioned enable us to serve citizens, businesses, and agencies on a single digital government platform. And while I've talked about our foundational capabilities, I want to highlight that there's so much in this product. And even though we released in Q1 of 2022, we've done a lot. So we built out our constituent services, our performance analytics, as I mentioned, but also we've been building out package playbooks, which are packaged applications on targeted use cases. So we have the service request playbook, the information request playbook as well. So there's a lot of rich information and capabilities that we've delivered. Alrighty, and now we're on to the fun part, which is the demos. So at this point, I'm going to pass it off to my colleague, Ryan Griffin, to walk you through some of the demos for Constituent Services.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kai. Appreciate it. I'm going to take over screen sharing so I can walk everyone through the demo today. So hopefully that's loading in on your side as we speak. So as Kai mentioned, I'm going to walk through a series of constituent-facing functionality for two sets of use cases. The first is going to be for an existing user. We have our constituent here, Ernie Mahomes. I want to demonstrate how Ernie can log into his government agency's portal. He can take a look at a variety of different services. He can also take a look at things like if he's a member of a household, the members of that household, items received, services received, and any cases that he may have logged with that government service agency over time. And then secondarily, I'm going to access our government services portal using our persona, Alma Watson. She's our government services agent. And I'm going to demonstrate with Alma the configurable workspace that we have for our government services agents. So I'll be able to show you a list of government cases, the 360-degree view of constituents. Likewise, if they've received any services or items, I can show you that from the government services perspective. And then last but not least, I'll show you how to verify a constituent. So this is if someone interacts with your government agency. You can look them up, make sure they are who they say they are, verify that contact information before doing such things as logging a case on their behalf. After that, I'm going to show you a little bit about that new user experience. So this is someone who's never interacted with the government agency before. I'm just going to quickly show you how they can access your portal. They can create an account to log into your portal. And then ultimately how an email gets generated to confirm their account. And they can do such things as maybe, update profile information, things of that nature. And then from there, I'll turn it back to Kai, who's going to show you a little bit about some of the business related functionality. All right. So I'm going to dive in first to our existing constituent, who's Ernie Mahomes. I'm going to log in as Ernie. And so once Ernie's logged in, as you can see, he's met with, again, the branded government portal that you can customize and configure on your own. There's a whole host of menu options across the top, and I'll speak to them kind of one by one. The first is this services link. So it's here really where we've got the categories of types of services that your government agency may provide. Now, as you can see, we've got information requests and service requests out of the box. But you can add any additional applications that are relevant to your government agency. So for sake of demonstration, I'm going to go in and just submit a sample service request so you can see what that experience looks like from Ernie's perspective. So you can see here a very intuitive form. You can either specify an exact address, or if you don't know the exact address, you can reference the cross streets for where maybe this pothole is located. But for sake of our demonstration, I'm going to just enter in an exact address. And so it's just as easy as adding a couple of attributes to a field. And once I've identified where this particular pothole is located, I can then provide some information about the service request itself. So I'll enter in a short description just to provide the government service agent with a little bit of context about my problem so that they can, again, maybe assign the right resources. And for sake of demonstration, I'm just going to copy the short description right into the details, but it's here where you provide a little bit more context around your particular issue so that the government service agent understands exactly what the nature of the problem is, and again, has the right resources to resolve your issue. Additionally, there's pre-populated contact information because Ernie has an existing profile with this government agency. You can see here he's reporting it as himself, and it already has him listed as the constituent. Ernie can also add some additional attachments. Let's just say, maybe he had his smartphone and he took a photograph of the pothole. He can upload that pothole photograph as an attachment to this specific service request. Once all the required information is filled out, Ernie can then go ahead and submit this request. And it's, again, going to be routed immediately to that government agency responsible for fielding this type of service request. Okay. Ernie is presented with a bit of a summary here. So you can see here this information about the case that was created and where that case is in the overall workflow. So very helpful information from Ernie's perspective. Ernie can also access this information by clicking on the Your Cases menu item, where you can see here, not only is the case that I just logged available, but if he logged any historical cases as well with this government agency, they're also visible from this perspective. Some other information that's also available to Ernie is if he's part of a larger household, he could take a look at this information here. So you can see here, Ernie is part of the Mahomes household, where he's got relatives such as Amy, Jill, and Daniel. And this can be configured such that you can set up additional people within the household. You can add and remove attributes that are relevant to the household itself. Likewise, if Ernie has received certain services from this government agency, again, you can click into that Your Information, Services Received menu option, and you can see here Ernie have received a service around maybe a sidewalk issue that occurred within his neighborhood. And then last but not least, in the Your Information category that I want to show you is items received. So this could be if you've set up services like, say, licensing and permitting, you can reference that information here. So in our example here, Ernie has his driver's license from the state of Washington, as well as his marriage license. And then lastly, across the top here, in terms of functionality, there's this really cool feature around notifications. This is really how the government agency can interact with constituents. So if they're pushing out information, if they responded to a case that you've logged, or they're even just reaching out to the constituent to provide additional information about their case, all of those types of notifications will be present here. So you can see here, we've got a sample case here where, personal medical records of Jamie Oliver, those would be relevant and pushed out to Ernie where he can see that here. Last but not least, in terms of information providing, if you click into Ernie Mahomes itself, you can take a look at his profile. So you can see here, there's a whole host of identifying information, additional information, and then various ways in which you can contact Ernie. And then last but not least, down at the bottom of this page, again, you can see that Ernie is part of a larger household. So not only can the household information be accessed from the Your Information tab up above, but also by looking at the profile for Ernie Mahomes. If Ernie needs to change any information within his profile, it's just as easy as clicking on the attribute within the profile, updating that information, and clicking Save. So it's as easy as that. All right. The last bit of functionality I'd love to show you is our virtual agent. And virtual agent can use a variety of technology, including Gen AI. In this particular instance, I don't necessarily have it installed, but I do want to illustrate how Ernie can not only create a service request case via the menu that I highlighted above, but he can also do that via the virtual agent. So you can see here, just by interacting with the virtual agent, clicking a couple of different prompts, Ernie is able to submit a new service request case, similar to as I did it by clicking the services menu listed above. So multiple ways by which you can interact with your government agency. All right. So I'm not going to continue on. You did see how it was a service request was created in the previous screen. But for sake of this demonstration, I'm going to end this conversation and transition over to Alma Watson, who's our government service agent. I want to illustrate from Alma's perspective what that agent experience looks like. So I'm going to transition over to a new window and log in as Alma Watson. So if you recall, Alma is our government services agent. And she would be responsible for fielding the various requests that would be coming into her government agency. Okay, so similar look and feel portal experience. I'm going to dive into the configurable workspace here, just so you can see what that agent experience looks like from Alma's perspective. So I'm going to access Ernie's case from earlier before, just so we have a point of reference and we can kind of trace it through that full life cycle from Ernie originating it on his portal experience, now coming through to Alma where she would field it. So this is kind of the agent experience. You can see here really detailed information about the service request that Ernie logged. All of these tiles can certainly be configured. Everything from the service request details itself, the location for that particular pothole, all the way down to some basic constituent information that Ernie may have provided at the time he was logging the case. In the center tile here, there is our activity stream. So this is capturing any information that and actions that we're taking on the case throughout its life cycle. And then on the right-hand side, we've got some basic record information here, just showing an overview of the case itself, who the consumer or the constituent is that logged this case, and the timeline. So how long has this case actually been in flight and ultimately moving towards resolution? One of the cool things I did want to show you is a 360-degree view of the constituent, and that's accessed by clicking on the constituent record itself, which launches the constituent information tab. And then by clicking on the constituent information header at the top there, we really are met with this full 360-degree view of Ernie. So not only do we get some identifying information about Ernie himself, we're also looking at things like recent interactions with Ernie. So maybe he's called in to this government agency. Maybe he's interacted with it via chat. So there's a variety of different tiles presented here that show Ernie and how he's interacted with this government agency. Likewise, similar to Ernie's view, Alma can take a look at any services that Ernie may have received. So if you recall here, Ernie logged a service request for a pothole in the past. That pothole was fixed, and you can see the details of Ernie's case on the services received tab. Likewise, we took a look at the items received. So if you are set up for licensing and permitting, and Ernie comes in and submits a driver's license and marriage license request, and receives those, you can view the details of those cases here. Okay. All right. So one other thing I'd love to show you is how to verify a constituent. So this could occur if a constituent, say, calls in or interacts with your government services agency, and you want to actually go in to verify the constituent. So I'm going to bounce out here to our interactions functionality and just start a new interaction. So let's just say Ernie calls in and he's looking for a particular service. I'm going to start this interaction, just designate the type of the interaction as being phone oriented. I'm then going to click over into our contextual side panel on the right-hand side here. And then let's just say we're asking for Ernie to verify himself via some means. Maybe it's his driver's license, maybe it's his email, maybe it's an address, what have you. But he's able to provide some sort of information about himself so that we're able to verify him. So for sake of this demonstration, I'm going to say that Ernie provides his email address. And as you can see here, the minute I start typing that into the text box, it's able to locate Ernie Mahomes as a constituent. I'm going to click into that option there that found Ernie. And then as you can see here, there's a variety of information by which the government agent can verify Ernie. Once we do so, we can click that verify link. And now this particular interaction auto-populates with Ernie as the constituent. It shows that we have verified him, and then we can start adding details about this interaction. If, for example, that government service agent is on the phone or chatting with someone who isn't necessarily verified, and they're not sure whether that person has a profile, they can first search, as I demonstrated. Let's just say they're not able to locate the person. The person doesn't have a profile created. They can just as easily go up here in the header, click this Create Constituent button. And what that does is load a form by which the government service agent can then create that constituent record. So you can see here, name, address, a whole host of attributes that are going to help substantiate this constituent. Okay, so I'm not going to pre-populate this form. I will actually save that for a later demo. But I wanted to transition over to the last part of our constituent services demonstration, which is a new user. So if someone comes into your government agency and does not have a registered account, they can easily do that by clicking in on this register link here at the top of the screen. As you can see, you're brought here to register a variety of type of accounts. You can register as a constituent, a business contact, or a new business. For sake of our demonstration, I'm just going to go in and register as a constituent. And our constituent here is Jim Griffiths, if you remember from our presentation. So you can go in, you can fill out email, name, address, and then you need to obviously set a password because this is going to be the account by which you log back into the government agency portal. So I'm going to just create a fictitious account. Oops. Simple validation just to confirm that you're not a robot. And then just agree to the terms and conditions and click the sign up button and the account is created. Now, what happens behind the scenes is that there's a confirmation email that gets created. This is to confirm that Jim Griffith's email is legitimate, and Jim would receive that information. He'd go into that email, he'd click that link, his account would then be authenticated, and then he'd be able to log into the portal. So for sake of demonstration, I'm not necessarily going to show you that aspect because it does take a couple of minutes, but I am going to transition it back to Kai, and she's going to show you a little bit about our business services. So Kai, I'm going to hand it off to you.
Thanks, Ryan. Alrighty, so business services support. I'm going to show you a couple of demo flows related to this. And as you'll see as we go through the demos, that a lot of the experiences, whether it's the constituent experience or the agent experience, is very similar to what we saw for constituent services. And again, it's the whole idea is that we can serve both constituents and businesses on a single platform. So you'll see that come to life. So the first flow that I want to walk you through is the existing user experience. So this is someone who's already registered, has already set themselves up on our portal. And so I'll walk you through Robert Bells, who is going to make a request because he has an aggressive dog on his street that's making it dangerous for residents, it's making it dangerous for the customers trying to visit his business. So we'll see what that experience is for him as a business making a request. We'll also be able to see his business information, see how he can view his contacts, make updates to his contacts. And then finally, we'll just see some other elements of the portal experience for him. So we'll see a list of his cases, so that all that historical information that he has access to, as well as his profile that he can manage and update. We'll then transition into the agent experience. So we have Ava Rose, a government agent who is set up to serve businesses. So we'll see her log into the configurable workspace, see a list of cases, and view those case details. We have a Business 360 that provides a holistic picture of the business, of all the services that they've received, the items that they've received, all of their recent interactions. So we'll get to see that through Ava Rose as well. Similar to kind of what we saw in Ryan's flows, we'll also see how an agent can respond to a phone call and then look up and verify the business owner, assuming that a phone call had been made. So we'll get to see both here. All righty, so let me transition into the existing user experience. So we're on our portal, which is a modern, clean experience. Again, very similar in layout to what Ryan just showed you. So right on the landing page, we have a list of articles that might be relevant to Robert. One has been pinned as featured. So there's the option to really highlight information that it's important for business owners and constituents to consume. So there are two ways for Robert to make a request. He can make a request using virtual agent. It's just loading. So he will click on show me everything, create a service request case, and then can just follow along on the prompts to begin initiating that request. I'm not going to walk through all these steps right here because I'm going to show you how to make a request via the service catalog, but just want to highlight that this is an option. So I'm going to end this conversation now. And then make the request through the service catalog. And so there's a list of categories here that makes it really easy to navigate through and find the form of interest. So because there's an aggressive animal near his business that's making it dangerous for himself and for customers, he's going to alert his government of this issue. And so he's just going to fill out the form with key details. I'm going to provide a short description so that it's easy for the agency to understand what's happening. If he wanted to put an attachment, maybe a picture of the aggressive dog, he had the option to do so here. And now he's going to click submit. And in a few moments, we'll see that a unique crest number has generated. And so from here, Robert has the option to really stay up to date with the case as it progresses. So within the activity stream, updates will populate from the government agency. And so this is really nice. He can get access to status at any time as he sees fit. Now that we've seen how to make a request, I want to show you the other elements of the portal. So if we click on your cases, just taking a moment to load, we'll see a list of all of the cases, including the one that we recently created up at the top. So he just has a lot of that historical information, which is nice. If he wants to look at and manage his business information, he can go to the Your Information menu. Okay, it's just taking its time to load. So you can see up top that the key details of his business are listed here. And then below, he can dive into different areas. So he can see a list of his business contacts, and these can be his secretaries, his lawyers, his project managers, anyone that he's onboarded onto the platform. He can also access his list of cases. He can see any services that his business has received over time, as well as items received. And items received can be things like permits and licenses. So you see Robert has a contractor license here, building permit, things of that nature. So I also wanted to show you how not only can he view a lot of information, but he can make updates. So we're going to go back to contacts, and we're going to make an update to one of his contacts. So Harold Webb has been promoted, exciting. And so he has a title change. So instead of project manager, it's now project manager 2. So from the portal, Robert Bells can easily make that update and have it be saved. Awesome. We can also see that from the portal that notifications appear. So as the government works on cases and there's tasks for Robert to act on, notifications will appear here on the portal for him. So it looks like someone registered to be a business contact. And so he can click on this notification. And then an approval form generates, and he can click on approve to associate Maya with his business. The last thing I wanted to show you was his profile. Since we've seen how he manages his business, I wanted to show how he manages his own personal information. So here, again, very similar to the constituent view, he can upload a picture of himself. He can update the key details about himself. Let's say he got a new business phone. It wasn't 0196. He can update that here. He can reset his password and stuff like that. So there's a lot from the portal that a business owner can do to manage his information and update it, as well as make requests. So at this point, I want to transition into the agent experience and show you what it looks like from that perspective. So just bear with me one moment, and we'll be signing in as Government Service Agent Ava Rhodes. Okay. Bear with me one moment. Zoom is kind of covering where I would normally do something. Bear with me. Okay. So Eva Rhodes logs into the configurable workspace, and she can see a list of all of the cases that are relevant to her. And so she sees that recent request from Robert Bells has come through, and so she can click on it to get started on the work. And just something to know about this workspace, it's again very similar to the workspace for an agent who's serving constituents. It is configurable, and there's a lot of contextual information on the right. So there's record information, contact information, timeline, and SLA information that's available for agents. But she can look through the information that Robert submitted through the form here. But something I really want to make sure that you see is the Business 360. So bear with me one moment as we pull that up. So through the Business 360, we get the key details on the business up at the top. We can see a breakdown of the cases. So see what's in draft, what's a work in progress, what's closed. You can see some details about the recent chat interactions and recent phone calls. That can give us a sense of Robert's state of mind, what's top of mind for him in terms of his interactions with his government. On the right-hand side, we see things like the recent cases that he's lodged, as well as more historical information. So the services that he's received and the items that he's received. So there's a lot of rich information available to the agent, as well as they can see the contact relationships. And it's configured to only show 3, but it could be configured to show more of his contacts. So while in this instance, a request was made by a portal, we do know that constituents sometimes call in by the phone. So I wanted to show you how this process would look if a phone call had come in. So I'm going to create an interaction. And from here, we can look up the person we're on the phone with. And so let's say she wanted to verify using Robert's email. She could do so here. His contact card populates. She can click verify. And then she has verified Robert. Let's say she was on the phone with someone who wasn't registered in the system. She could click the create a business or create constituent buttons and create a new person or business that way. So there's a lot of flexibility within the platform. So this concludes the existing user experience flow that I wanted to show you. But I'm going to move into our next flow, which is showing you how a business contact can register themselves. So new contact registration. So I've alluded to this already, but oftentimes business contacts will get themselves set up on the portal so they can make requests on behalf of the business. So let's imagine Andrew Fields is a lawyer and he's trying to get himself set up and associated with Robert Bells's business. We'll see what that registration form looks like and what that experience looks like for him. Bear with me one moment. So because Andrew Fields has never set himself up before, he's going to see a register button that he can click on to get himself started. And this register page is very similar to the register page that we saw for a new constituent. So what Andrew is going to do is he's going to click the as a business contact button. And then from here, he's going to see a form and he can enter in his information. He's just going to verify that he is not a robot. And this business registration code that I just put in, that was provided to him by business owner Robert Bells. And that's just how Bells can manage the people who are getting added to his business as staff. And so the request has been generated. And we had seen in the original flow how Robert had a notification about a new business contact. So he'll get a similar notification about Andrew, and that will enable him to approve Andrew's request and get him set up. So now let's go to the final flow in business services support. So this is new business registration. So sometimes, at the beginning of every new business, they'll need to get themselves set up on the portal. And so I'm just going to show you kind of what that experience looks like as a business owner. Let's say Darla Martin gets herself set up. So let's see that in action. So she's going to click the same register button that we saw previously. And instead of clicking as a constituent or as a business contact, she's going to click as a new business because she is setting up a new business. And in this form, she'll enter things like her business name, the business structure, her business's tax ID. She'll indicate correspondence information. So everything as it relates to where her business is located. She can also indicate if she is a minority-owned business or a woman-owned business. So all of that's available to her to indicate. She can set up that business registration code so that she can get her staff set up on the portal as well, and then just finally submit her primary contact information. It's a long form, so I won't put everything in right now, but I wanted to give you a sense of what that experience looks like. Okay, and so with that, we've walked through all three flows of business services support. The next thing that's up is talking about performance analytics. So we discussed performance analytics and the fact that we've created dashboards out of the box for you with public sector specific content. So we're going to see Jessica Werner, a government service manager, log into the workspace for government and views these dashboards that we've created. So let's just dive in and see what she sees. Let's see. I think it's so this is her landing page, and then she's going to go to dashboards. And then there's two dashboards related to public sector that are available to her out of the box. So first, let's click on Constituent Service. So it's just loading up right now, but this provides a really good snapshot of what's currently happening. So she can see the open cases that are here, what is currently unassigned, and things like a breakdown of open cases by priority. So what are the critical cases? What are the moderate cases? What's low? She can get a sense of the breakdown of cases by type. So are we getting a lot of service requests? Are we getting a lot of benefit type of cases, licenses and permits, etc.? She can also see just kind of a time horizon of cases being opened as well. So let's go to the performance section of this dashboard. This dashboard provides a sense of what's typically happens. So it gives averages for average response time, average age of open cases, average close time of cases, so she can get a real sense of how productive her agents are. What does it typically take for them to get started on cases, to respond to cases, and stuff like that. So this is also a really neat dashboard as well. And then I really like this one about open cases older than 30 days because it kind of shows what are some of these problem cases, ones that we haven't gotten to start work on, and enables her to potentially dive deep and kind of investigate what's happening here. So now I'm going to move on to our next dashboard, which is a services offered dashboard. And what this does is it really does a good job of highlighting all of the services offered by a particular government agency. Provides some good metrics on the average days to provide services, average services requests in the last 30 days. I think that it also does a really good job of breaking down services offered by type. So you can see, okay, we are offering a lot of 311 types of benefits, or we're offering a lot of licenses and permits to our constituents. But then at the other end of things, we can see the services requested by constituents. So see and be able to compare and contrast on how that's different. So there's a lot of neat things here as well. You can also see the top services that are quickly resolved, the ones that are slowest to resolve, and maybe this spurs an investigation in terms of looking at the services that are slow to resolve on whether there's particular skills or maybe training that's needed to help agents resolve those services more quickly. And then just wanted to show you the benchmarking part of this dashboard. So a lot of these tiles have to do with the top services and showing different time horizons. So you can see the top 10 services in the last 30 days, in the last 6 months, in the last 12 months. And it just really helps a manager piece together how services are being requested over time and start to put together trends that might be emerging. So this concludes the performance analytics demo. And with that, we're almost nearing the end of our presentation. So let's go back to the deck. So thank you so much for taking the time to hear about our product strategy, to dive in with us as we went through the product overview, and to show you constituent services and business services support and performance analytics, and to show you all those things in action and show you some demos. So thank you for being on this journey with us. As our next steps, my call to action is to get started yourself and to download or store apps. So that's the Public Sector Digital Services Core, that's our Performance Analytics Content Pack for Public Sector, Service Request Playbook. That's the first thing you need to do to get started. And then make sure you activate key plugins like Customer Central. That helps you see the Business 360 and that Constituent 360. Activate households so that constituents can set up and manage the households that they are a part of. And then if you want to provide flexibility to how your constituents and businesses make requests, set up virtual agent and activate that plugin. And then I encourage you to experience the capabilities firsthand and walk through the same constituent and business flows that Ryan and myself walk through. I encourage you to use the out-of-the-box performance analytics dashboards and to configure them to meet your specific needs. And then finally, I just wanted to highlight that we have so many amazing resources available to use. So we have a PSDS playlist on YouTube that has a lot of content on our features. We have Now Learning so that you can get up to speed on ServiceNow, CSM, and PSDS. We have Now Create assets which help you with implementation. And then we have our product documentation as well that can help you and guide you as you have questions. All righty. Well, I think this concludes the webinar. So thanks so much, everyone. Talk to you later.